Previously on the 40-year sim, the Portland Trailblazers defeated the Boston Celtics in 7 games. They were down 3-1 and won the last 3 games to seal the deal. Rasheed Wallace, Rip Hamilton, Damon Stoudemire, Sharif Abdur-Rahim, Birdman Chris Anderson. These are all first-time champions. They played team-oriented basketball, and they came out on top against the storied franchise that is the Boston Celtics. Can they repeat? Can they do it again? Everyone's coming back next year, so why not? We'll find out in due time, but until then, we got some business to take care of. It's the off-season, 2005. We got the 05 draft. We got retirements to start out. A lot of retired players here, guys. David Robinson, that's it. David Robinson is finally retired. My voice got weak there for a second. He finally retired. Not a champion in the sim. Not a champion. He couldn't even make the conference finals. He had his chances. Don't feel bad. He had his chances. That team, when they had Dennis Rodman and Tim Hardaway and Sean Elliott, they had their chances. I don't feel bad for him. He should have won it that year. I think that was like 2001, but they couldn't do it. I think they had 61 wins regular season. I'm shaking my head. They had their chances. John Starks retired as well. Sean Kemp, Vlade Divac, Jay Edwards, J.R. Reed, Randy White. He retired a champion. That's fun. Divac couldn't retire a champion, unfortunately. Yeah, let's check out the resumes. So you had never mind. Let's continue. Sean Elliott, he is retired. Not a single All-Star appearance. Nothing for Sean Elliott. No All-NBAs. That sucks. He had a great freaking career in this sim. He made it to a couple of finals with the Suns. Clifford Robinson made it to 2 All-Star appearances. 2 All-Star games, I should say. He has decided to retire. 38 years old. Retired as a New Orleans Hornet player. Terry Mills, Eldridge Kazner, Lionel Simmons, Doug Overton. He's retired. Anybody else of note? Steve Smith. Steve Smith is retired. No All-Star appearances for him either. That's a shame. Tom Gugliotta. He was a champion with the Lakers. Jim Jackson. He's done. Who else is decided to call it quits? Jim Jackson was only in like 13 years. I guess that's a solid number of years to be in it. But yeah, it's interesting to see some guys who were drafted in 1992, 1991. Rick Fox, he was drafted in 91. Didn't really do much in the sim. He did manage to win 2 championships, though. Watt Williams, Chris Mills, he was a champion with the Bulls. Isaac Austin has retired for the Hawks, which is going to be interesting. Now the Hawks have a hole to fill at center. Well, you'll find out later in this episode how that hole got filled. But yeah, he's done. Lindsey Hunter. The Celtics are now missing a backup point guard. Anthony Bonner, Matt Geiger didn't really do much. Monty Williams didn't really do much. And a bunch of other guys who didn't really do much. So that is it for retirements. A lot of notable players. The league is changing. The league is shifting. Let's check out staff retirements don't matter. Hall of Famers, David Robinson and Sean Kemp. About what you would expect. I don't even think Sean Kemp is a Hall of Famer in real life, is he? I don't think he is. But fun to see him getting in there for the sim. Jersey retirements, Kemp and Robinson again. Sean Kemp gets his number 40 retired for the Sonics. Robinson gets his number 50 retired for the Spurs. Kind of bittersweet for Sean Kemp, though, because the Sonics are moving to Oklahoma City in a few seasons, so not quite sure how that's gonna change things. Rule changes. The draft, you got to be 19 years or older to be eligible for the draft now. We got some team branding changes. The Pistons logo has changed. uniforms for the Celtics, and the logo and uniforms for the Pacers, and the court. I changed the court because that should have been changed as well. I take care of that. I don't think I show you the court, unfortunately. I don't think I thought enough to do that, which is a shame. Let's check out the draft lottery. Bobcats with the 14th pick via Milwaukee. I think that was because they traded for Chucky Atkins. Yeah, right? I think so. Pacers get the 13th pick. That's their own pick. The Timberwolves up to bat now. They should have made the playoffs, man. They get the number 12 pick. They have too many good players to be on the outside looking in. Jermaine O'Neal and Ron Artest. Desmond Mason. New Orleans Hornets are going to end up with the 11th pick. So they played a bit too well down the stretch. Don't get a chance to get Chris Paul or anything like that. They end up with the 11th pick. Suns with the 10th pick. So they hold down to that pick. We'll see what they end up doing with it. They've got a lot of good young players already, so not quite sure. The Mavericks are next, maybe. Yes, they are. So the Mavericks with the 9th pick so far. Nothing too surprising here. And here comes the 8th pick of the draft. That'll be the Spurs? Yes, the San Antonio Spurs with the 8th pick. First season in the post David Robinson era. We'll see how things go for them. Supersonics will take the 7th pick. So far, so expected. Nothing, no surprises. Cavaliers will get the 6th pick. So they had a pretty bad season. And Reggie Miller still hasn't retired, believe it or not. And now they get the 6th pick. Wizards with never mind. The Heat. The Heat will fall out of the top 3. They are out of the Chris Paul sweepstakes. And the Wizards with the top 3 pick. Bobcats will not get the 4th pick. That'll be the Knicks. The Knicks are not going to get Chris Paul, unfortunately. Sucks for them. Let's see the top 3 now. Could it be the Kings? The Kings will not get the number 3 pick. The Bobcats will. Interesting. So let's see the top 2 picks then. We got, what was it? The Kings and who else? The Wizards or something? The Wizards will end up with the number 2 pick. Can you believe that? They had the number 1 pick in 01, 02, and now in 05 they get the number 2 pick. Kind of crazy. Then the Kings, how about that? The Kings end up with the number 1 pick, which means Chris Paul almost certainly will be joining Carmelo Anthony on the Sacramento Kings. I think that's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool development. Everything else, we'll see how the chips fall. Doesn't make sense for Deron Williams to go to the Wizards, so I'm thinking he might fall to the Bobcats. They have Devin Harris. So could Deron Williams go to the Knicks? Could that be a possibility? I don't know. We'll find out. We'll find out in just a couple of seconds because the draft is now, folks. Let's do it. With the number 1 pick of the draft, Sacramento Kings will select, drum roll please, here we go, Chris Paul. Chris Paul going to the Kings. I like it. Chris Paul and Carmelo Anthony together. Danny Granger to the Wizards. Interesting. I didn't think they'd pick Deron Williams because they have Arenas. Oh, right. So when the Bobcats became the expansion team, I forgot to make it CPU only draft for their team. So this is an awkward moment where I end up picking for the Bobcats. And right then and there, I decided, you know what? Let's give them Deron Williams. And we'll figure something out with Devin Harris because Deron Williams is the obvious pick, in my opinion. You go best player available if you're the expansion team. It doesn't matter if you have a point guard or not. Devin Harris is a good point guard, but Deron Williams is a multi-time All-Star, right? So I think that makes sense. Andrew Bynum going to the Knicks. That's fun. The Heat take Francisco Garcia. Don't know about that one. Cavaliers get Gerald Green. Certainly remember him. Supersonics, Will Bynum from Georgia Tech. Spurs select Ronnie Price. Marvin Williams going to the Mavericks. That's actually a solid pick. Marvin Williams had a solid career. A long career, too. Salim Stoudemire to the Suns. Hornets select Charlie Villanueva. So, yeah. Raymond Felton going to the Wolves. I think that's fun. That could be a fun one. I love Felton. Dejon Thompson to the Pacers. Don't know much about him. Bobcats. Again, here's another awkward moment. And I couldn't help it. I was like, Bogut's right there. So, again, best player available, right? So, wouldn't you select Bogut? What is Bogut doing that he's dropping that far? He had a solid career. He wasn't like a bad player. What the hell is that all about? So, Bobcats select Andrew Bogut. I hope he has a solid career in this sim. The disrespect to Andrew Bogut. He was a champion. Put some respect on the name. CJ Miles going to the Raptors. Bulls select Kalena Azubuike. Did he have a son? Because the last name feels familiar. I think, yeah. Brandon Bass going to the Jazz. Vaguely familiar with Brandon Bass. I feel like he was in the league just a couple years ago, wasn't he? I think he retired fairly recently. Antoine Wright gets drafted. Martell Webster to the Clippers. I feel like there's a few guys left in this in this draft. Randolph Morris. That's not who I was talking about. The Hawks select Chris Taft. That's not it. Magic. Johan Petro. He was decent for a few seasons, I think. John Lucas III. I think that's the son of John Lucas that was in the sim in the 80s. That's fun. I think that's our first father and son players in this sim. Luther Head going to the Grizzlies. I remember that Illinois team that lost to the Tar Heels in the 2005 NCAA championship. Ronnie Turiaf to the Celtics. Linus Kleiza to the Pistons. Chuck Hayes to the Blazers. I'm telling you, there are some diamonds in the rough in this draft that haven't been picked yet. Raptors, are you going to pick one of those guys? Channing Frye, there you go. Channing Frye, solid player, stretch 5. Knicks, Amir Johnson, another solid power forward. There were definitely some guys left in this draft that, for some reason, the CPU wasn't selecting. I don't know what gives. I see Jarrett Jack. I see Ryan Gomez. Ersan Ilyasova. Monte Ellis is still out there. Lou Williams. Who do I end up picking? I actually don't know what I did here. I think I did, at this point, felt like I probably shouldn't have picked all the good players that are left. So I think I went with... I really thought about Monte Ellis for a second there. Marcin Gortat. I didn't want to pick an obvious one, even though there's so many guys here that could have went. David Lee. Do I pick David Lee? That makes sense. Why is David Lee that far down that list? David Lee to the Bobcats. Jarrett Jack to the Knicks. This is weird. This is a weird draft. A lot of good players available in the second round. Lou Williams. I guess in real life they were drafted low too, but still, I mean, this is more a redraft than anything else, I guess. So yeah, I don't understand it. Marcelo Huertas. Rockets select Ryan Gomez. Or Ryan Gomes. It's Gomez, right? I'm pretty sure it's Gomez. Dengai to the Nets. Sonic select Travis Diener. Jazz select Will Conroy. Again, Bobcats have another pick. I really wish I change the setting. But, I didn't want to do this all over again. There's really no way to go back, There's really no way to go back. I think I did... I think I selected Jan Mahinmi. Yeah, I selected Jan Mahinmi. Jan Mahinmi. So he goes to the Bobcats. Don't worry, I fixed that issue I'm gonna fix that issue for the next draft for sure. So don't worry about that. Von Wafer to the Wizards. Utah Jazz select Ricky Sanchez, power forward. Bobcats again. They had so many second-round picks. I think at this point I didn't want to pick anybody interesting. Or do I? Do I pick someone interesting? Yeah, I wanted to see some of those other guys get drafted by somebody else. Rashad McCants, who I mostly know now. He was a champion, NCAA champion with the Tar Heels, but now I think he just appears on Gilbert Arenas' podcast these days. Andre Blatch to the Knicks. Mile Illich? Is that how you say his name? Bulls select Nate Robinson. Nate Robinson to the Bulls. I like that. It's a fun one. Clippers select Hakeem Warwick. Got a couple more left. A couple of names out there. Martinez Andrews Kavicius. I nailed it. Robert Whaley to the Kings. Wizards select Uros Slogar from Slovenia. 76ers select Stephen Graham. Just a couple picks left. Atlanta Magic select Jason Maxiel. Rockets select Sean May. He was a big part of that Tar Heels championship team, but he didn't do much in the NBA. Sherrod Ford to the Wizards. 3 picks left. Grizzlies select Donald Taylor. And then 2 picks left. Blazers, Ersan Ilyasova. Very interesting. He was a hell of a bench player for a number of years. Monte Ellis to the Pistons as well. Monte Ellis could be interesting for the Pistons. Curious to see how that's going to play out, because he was hell of a scorer, but does he fit with the Pistons as they are right now? Could be interesting to see how that plays out. That does it for the NBA draft. I recorded the next portion a while ago before I started capturing the 06 season. So Nutty Sports Gamer from the past is going to take over from this point. Thank you very much for watching, guys. And the next half of this episode, or portion of the episode, I go into each roster. So I hope you look forward to that. Nutty Sports Gamer from the past, take it away. Let's take a look at the 2006 rosters. First up, the Philadelphia 76ers. Not much has changed other than the fact that Shawn Kemp is no longer in the NBA. Got Nick Van Exel, Eddie Jones, Glenn Robinson. David West now is the starter. Remember, he got drafted in the second round, deep in the second round in 2003, in this sim by the Sixers, and they've slowly have had him come along, and now he's ready to start for the squad. He's starting alongside Marcus Camby, so the other 4 guys still around. We'll see for how much longer. They are getting quite old. 33 years old, Nick Van Exel is. Eddie Jones is 34. Glenn Robinson's 32. Marcus Camby's 31. They both are. Nick Van Exel's a free agent after this year, but the rest of these guys are under contract for a little bit longer, so a little bit longer than that anyway. Well, let's take a look at the bench before we move on. Terrence Rencher is back. Got Vladimir Radmanovich, Aaron McKee, Ron Mercer, Joe Prisbilla. This is the Sixers. I think they'll take a bit of a step back because of the lack of Shawn Kemp, but they should still be pretty good. They still look like playoff contenders to me. If we move on to the Bucks, here we go. Penny Hardaway is back. He is back. He's in his almost to mid-30s, but hey, he's going to be a big floor raiser for this team. who've been hovering around 500 these last few seasons. So we want to see if Penny Hardaway being on the team can help them get over the hump, get to that next level of being a serious playoff contender, maybe even a championship contender. You got Manu Ginobili, of course. Luau Dang is the starter for now. We'll see if that works or if Dunleavy being the starter works better. Last season, Dunleavy being the starter was the better choice. But maybe Luau Dang he's developed a little bit more, so maybe he could be the starting small forward this season. Dirk Nowitzki, of course, is the power forward, of course. Tyson Chandler, he's getting better and better every season, and he's only 23. Then you got Adonal Foyle coming off the bench, Chucky Atkins as well, Mike Dunleavy, Robert Churchwell, who came over from the Clippers along with Penny Hardaway, Samaki Walker getting minutes as well. Then Mo Williams, who they stole from the Jazz, Kirk Snyder, etc. Yeah, this is a really good squad, a hell of a bench. They got depth, and I expect a huge jump, in the wins column. I think they had 40 wins last season. I could see 60 with this squad. Moving on to the Wizards. This is going to be an interesting team this upcoming season. Gilbert Arenas, they ponied up some big bucks to get Jerry Stackhouse. Mike Miller, they re-signed him. It says here Josh Smith is going to be the starting power forward. We'll see about that. Yao Ming, obviously, starting center. Carlos Arroyo is the backup point guard. Overqualified to be a backup with an 88 overall. We'll see if that ends up being a problem. Reggie Evans, Wang Zizi, or Gigi, Michael Petrus, and then Wesley Person, Danny Granger. I kind of wanted Danny Granger to get some minutes as a rookie. Yeah, you know what? In fact, we'll just do this for now, and eventually, I think eventually Granger will get more minutes than Wesley Person, and then Wesley Person will probably fall out of the rotation because Granger's the future, I guess. We'll see. We'll see what happens with Granger and Josh Smith. They got some interesting young players on this team. Michael Petrus is only 23. Uh, is this team going to get to that next level and be a playoff caliber team, a borderline playoff team? The Wizards have been wallowing in mediocrity, but they paid to get Jerry Stackhouse, who's been very good these last couple of seasons with the Pacers. So we're hoping he could bring that level of play to the Wizards. He's only 30 years old. He's only 30, so he's got plenty of juice left. Chicago Bulls, they are running it back. Jay Williams, Jason Richardson, Shane Battier, Zebo, Zach Randolph, Lorenzen Wright, Austin Crozier coming off the bench. They stole Leandro Barbosa from the Grizzlies. Sebastian Telfair is the backup point. These guys should start too. It's because the playoff rotations were tightened. The rotations were tightened for the playoffs. Then you get Matt Harpring and Zaza Pachulia coming off the bench. Mike Sweetney reserves with Bryson Daly. Nate Robinson's down here. You know, he shouldn't be down here for his entire career, but he's down here for now. But hey, this team won I think 47 games last season, or maybe 45, and they're got young Jay Williams, 24, 24, 27, 24. It's a young team. They're getting better and better. So I expect them to improve upon last year's performance. Their bench is weaker. Barbosa's a good signing for sure. Telfair, we'll see how he does. I don't even think he played last year. So we have no clue what Telfair is going to look like. None. So we'll give it a shot. It's kind of risky to have such a young backup point guard, but we'll see. We'll see how it works out. Let's check out the Cavaliers. TJ Ford is the starting point guard. Get Reggie Miller. He's still here, age 39. His scoring number is ridiculous, so ridiculous, absurd. But hey, I mean, respect to him, I guess. Josh Howard is here. Al Harrington, Chris Mim, Carlos Delfino coming off the bench, Alvin Williams, Drew Gooden, and Kevin Martin. Kevin Martin, I expect him to take over Reggie Miller when Reggie Miller finally retires, which hopefully will be this season because we need to move on, dude. We need to move on. No offense to Reggie. Moving on to the Celtics, Jamal Tinsley, Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, Lamar Odom, Brian Grant, Malik Rose coming off the bench, Billy Owens, Stacey Ogman, Bob Shura, Alvin Jones, Tyus Edney, and Ronnie Turiaf, Luke Walton, as the reserves. Hey, this team is pretty much the same as it was last year. The bench is a bit different, a little bit. The only difference really is Stacey Ogman and Alvin Jones in the rotation. You got Tyus Edney, who isn't even getting minutes right now, but he's the backup point guard, quote unquote. But Bob Sure is going to be getting the backup point minutes this season. Yeah, this team made it to the finals 2 straight years. They definitely could do that again this year. So, not much else to say about that. We'll see how this goes. Big changes for the Clippers. Sam Cassell is now the starting point guard after Penny Hardaway got traded away. Got Larry Hughes, Peja Stojakovic, Christian Leitner, the 36-year-old power forward, but he's still playing pretty well. Eaton Thomas is the starting center. Got Devin Harris coming off the bench. Eventually, he will be the starting point guard, just not this season. We're going to let Sam Cassell do his thing for a year, and then we'll bump up Devin Harris. You also got Jamal Crawford, who was part of the trade. He was on the Bucks for a couple of seasons. Now he's on the Clippers. Just like in real life, he was on the Clippers for many seasons. Tyrone Lue, Kendrick Perkins, Corliss Williamson. We'll see. Honestly, I have no clue what this Clippers team is going to be like this season. But my gut tells me they're probably no more than like a 45 win team, right? I don't think they're going to be doing anything special this season. So that's the Clippers. Let's move on to the Hawks. I was really debating whether or not they're going to bring back Billups, and Tim Duncan. Obviously, Tim Duncan re-signing him is a no-brainer. But they ended up signing Billups and Tim Duncan, extending their contracts. But they had to get rid of Bruce Bowen as a result because there's just too much money on the books. So you got Billups, you got Allen Iverson. Deshaun Stevenson is now the starting small forward, who I think is a fine replacement for Bruce Bowen. We'll see how he does for this team. Tim Duncan, and then Isaac Austin was their starting center past couple seasons. Now it's Nazir Muhammad. So we'll see how he fits with the squad. Mahmoud Abdul Rauf is going to be coming off the bench as their sixth man, the point guard. Got Jerome Williams, Matt Maloney. I He might not be here for much longer, but he's still here. Harold Miner, Ronnie Buford, Bobby Simmons, Danny Fortson. So yeah, that's the Hawks. Obviously, they're a championship contender because they got a big three in Billups, Iverson, and Tim Duncan, and they're here to stay. They're here to stay for probably the next half decade. So let's see if this could be a dynasty. They have 2 championships thus far. They made it to the conference finals last year. Can they get back to the finals and win? We'll definitely keep an eye on that. Checking out the Utah Jazz, we got 35-year-old Terrell Brandon, uh, still the starter here, the starting point guard for the Jazz. You got Joe Johnson, Tayshaun Prince, Kenny Martin, Chris Kaman, Damon Jones, Rafer Alston, Tony Dumas, Brian Skinner, Jonathan Bender. Got Lou Williams coming off, or staying on the bench, I should say. Who else? Anthony Roberson, Brendan Bass. Yeah, so not much change here. Not much change at all, actually. They're running it back. I think a lot is going to depend on how Joe Johnson and Tayshaun Prince and Kenyon Martin, Chris Kaman, how these guys look another year of experience under their belt. Maybe they can uh, uh, elevate the Jazz to being even better than they were the last 2 seasons. We'll see if this Jazz team gets better, or is Terrell Brandon getting too old? Do they need to jazz it up, so to speak? I don't know. I think they're fine. I have faith that this team is going to be good this year. Sacramento Kings now have Chris Paul as their starting point guard, Raja Bell at the 2, Andre Kirilenko, we're going to have him at small forward this season with Camilo Anthony at the 4, and then Jamal Magloire as a starting center. Hopefully his numbers improve this season. Uh, anyway, Derek Fisher, Delonte West, who's going to probably get 2 guard minutes. Dennis Scott, Tyrone Hill, Eddie Gill. This team should definitely be very much improved from what they've been the last few seasons. I think that they should really come together this season and threaten to make the playoffs at the very least. With Camilo Anthony and Chris Paul, you got a hell of a defender in Andre Kirilenko. Raja Bell, you can't count him out either. He's been really solid. Uh, he's been progressing pretty nicely as well. Jamal Magloire, he's only 27. He can continue to get better. You got a solid veteran point guard coming off the bench, and 3D Scott and Tyrone Hill providing some veteran wisdom as well. So yeah, I think this team could be actually pretty, like, really good, uh, for their standards anyway. The New York Knicks, the Knickerbockers, check them out. Kirk Heinrich, Quentin Richardson, Richard Jefferson, Stromile Swift, Eddie Curry, Chris Wilcox, Allen Houston, Danielle Marshall, Earl Watson, and Josh Childress. You got Andrew Bynum on the bench with Jarrett Jack, Andre Blatch, Amir Johnson, and David Lee. They got a lot of interesting reserves. David Lee was part of a trade with the Bobcats. But yeah, this team, they're starting to, I don't know. The Knicks aren't going to be very good this year, but I do think they have some good, nice players here and there. And once these guys develop, like Andrew Bynum and David Lee, this team can start to become interesting. But we're taking the slow path here. We're taking a slow road towards the Knicks, uh, being playoff caliber. They're not there yet, not even close. But I do think they have a promising crop of guys. Allen Houston's here, which is fun, coming off the bench. So yeah, I don't know. I think they could be okay, but we're just being patient. We're being patient, letting some of these guys develop, get better. David Lee should probably be higher than a 71. Uh, but yeah, and Andrew Bynum, we'll let him slowly develop into becoming a potential all-star center for the Knicks. That could be fun. But yeah, so we're taking a slow road here. They're not going to be very good this year. Checking out the Los Angeles Lakers, we got Kenny Anderson back for another year. Probably his last year on the Lakers. He's expiring. You got Kobe Bryant, Bruce Bowen. This might some Spurs fans might shudder to think about Bruce Bowen being on the Lakers, but it made sense. It made sense to sign him, and they had the cap space to do it, so it made perfect sense. They got Udonis Haslem in a trade with the Pacers, so he's now on the Lakers. You got Shaq. You got Devin George, also part of I don't know if he was in a trade with the Pacers, but he used to be on the Pacers. Now he's on the Lakers. David Blumenthal, who I looked him up. He was a big time player in the Israel Basketball League, and he ended up in the 2002 draft, and he was drafted by the Sixers. We'll give him a shot to be in the Lakers rotation. Anthony Parker had a big year last year with the Bobcats, a big lot of scoring. We'll see if he can do that kind of thing off the bench for the Lakers this season. And then we got Melvin Booker coming off the bench as the point guard. Jason Sasser, Corey Benjamin, Anthony Johnson, Darko. They got Darko. Smush Parker is here. Maybe Smush Parker will start next year in place of Kenny Anderson. But they should be much better than they were last year. Uh, yeah, I mean that last year was rough. They were swept by the Rockets. So we're hoping that we'll see a much better, much improved Lakers squad. Is the Kobe and Shaq era close to coming to an end? We'll see. We'll see how this season goes. Checking out the Mavericks, we got Andre Miller, Andre Iguodala, Turkoglu, Antoine Walker, Kurt Thomas, Gary Trent, Doug Christie coming off the bench with Jason Hart. Shandon Anderson and Bryant Reeves. Got Glenn Rice on the reserves list. Carlos Rogers, Danny Ferry, John Fox. It's funny. I was looking through the free agencies. Danny Ferry is still in the league. He's 39 years old. He hasn't been with the team in like 5 seasons. John Fox, same thing. And I felt like let's let these guys be old veterans helping out the squad. I don't know. I just thought it'd be kind of funny to have these guys sign with the Mavericks. So yeah, but other than that, this team, Iggy is developing. Turkaloo is hell of a player, especially in the sim. This could be an interesting team. They can threaten to make the playoffs for sure. I think they have the tools to do it. It's all about the execution from here on out. Checking out the nets, the 7 seconds or less nets is what I call them. Got Steve Nash, Vashawn Leonard, he's back. Sean Marion, Amari Stoudemire, Alonzo Mourning, Randy Woods, Brendan Haywood, Luis Scola, Tony Allen, DeMar Johnson, get Respert, Willie Green, Langdon, and Dengay on the bench. But yeah, this team had a strong finish last season, made it to round two, and they didn't have Lonzo Mourning until halfway through the season. So I'm hoping that him being here from the beginning, hopefully they can rack up some more wins and be a much stronger contender going into the playoffs. So that's what I'm expecting. This team really needs to take that next step up, just like the Bucks. They did okay last year, but this should be like a 55 win team. Just, they have the talent to be that good, so why not? You got the Nuggets, Steve Francis, Jameson Brewer, LeBron James, Dale Davis is back, 36 years old, Vin Baker, God Sham God, Greg Ostertag, Jared Jeffries, Brian Cardinal, Kendall Gill, and a bunch of guys who don't really matter. But yeah, this team, probably the last time we'll see this version of this Nuggets team. I think Steve Francis. Yeah, Steve Francis is expiring. Dale Davis, he's going to be an expiring next year. You get Vin Baker's, he's an expiring. So yeah, this team will probably rebuild around LeBron James next season. But till then, they're going to run it back with this squad. They've made the playoffs the last 2 years as an 8 seed. So we'll see how they do this year. But I definitely this team's kind of fun. This team's fun to watch. They're fun to watch. But so yeah, we'll appreciate the Steve Francis, LeBron, Vin Baker era for one more season, and then we'll probably see some big changes with the Nuggets next season. But they should make the playoffs. Hopefully, we'll see. The Indiana Pacers, they've had big changes too. David Wesley, Michael Redd is now on the Pacers. James Posey is still here. Mecca Okafor, Dikembe Mutombo signed with the Pacers in the offseason. Isaiah Ryder as well. Antonio Daniels, Marcus Fizer, Drew Coles, Mike James. There's a chance Drew Coles is a generic, but as long as he stays at 79, I don't really. It's okay. My hope for this Pacers team is that Michael Redd develops into a star. He's 26 years old. He hasn't really, he's a guy that in real life he was averaging 25 a game at some point. So I want to try and make that happen for him with him on this Pacers team. And Okafor here, James Posey's 28, not that young, but kind of young. So they got an interesting squad. I don't know if they make the playoffs. They could threaten to do it. David Wesley, whenever David Wesley is always underwhelming. I always expect him to do more when he joins a team, but every team he joins, he seems to make them worse. I don't know what that is. Although he did win a championship with the Lakers, so I can't. That's not entirely accurate, but still, overall, I think that this team is a borderline playoff team, and there's a path. There's a path. I see them building a team around Okafor and Michael Redd for the following seasons after this one. We'll see how this season goes. Pistons, they were a disappointment last season after winning 64 games. But they brought back the squad: Baron Davis, Sprewell, Brent Barry, Kevin Garnett, Brad Miller, Robert Ory coming off the bench, Jim McIlvain, Pablo Prigioni, Trevor Ariza, Maurice Evans. You got Hubert Davis, Jerry Welsh, Monte Ellis. Uh, Probably will stay as a reserve. I might try. I'll try to get him into the rotation this season. We'll see. How old is he? 20? Yeah. We'll try to get him into the rotation. My worry is that his style of basketball will clash with this team, the team that we have now. But we'll see. Well, we'll see. I might give him a shot. But yeah, this is the squad. We'll give it another year. Spreewell's going to be a free agent after this season. So, they won 64 games last year. Uh, but things went awry in the playoffs last season. So, yeah, we'll see if they can overcome that and and get over that embarrassment and tear up the league this year. We'll see if that happens. The Rockets, Brevin Knight, Trace McGrady, Tim Thomas, Elton Brand, Ben Wallace. They for some reason they got Sean Bradley and Luke Longley. I don't love that. I don't love that. Got Malik Allen, Speedy Claxton, Charlie Ward. Yeah, it feels like they're missing a small forward. I guess Ansu Sese is their backup small forward. Yeah, I don't love that. We'll eventually try to find them a good backup small forward. But in the meantime, this is their starting five. This is their crew, and yeah, for real, if this duo ends up screwing up the team, we might make changes really really soon. If they start out 1-5 or 1-10, then we're gonna break up this potential mistake because this. I don't know why they signed both guys, but let's not get too hung up on that. It's still a really good squad here, and we'll see if they can make it back to the conference finals or do better than that. But Grady is 99 overall. Good God, damn, Jesus, he's really going crazy in this sim. So yeah, I mean maybe he'll have another MVP caliber season. Checking out the Spurs. The Spurs are in a different place, but they got some young guys, some veterans trying to make it work. In San Antonio, Jose Calderon is their starting point guard. You got Ben Gordon, got Wally Zerbiak, Larry Johnson, Scott Pollard, Eddie Griffin, LaFonso Ellis, Dan Lange, Omar Cook, Vincent Yarbrough, Sean Livingston. Hopefully gets in the rotation at some point. This is the rest of their guys. Who did they draft last year? Ronnie Price. Hmm. Okay. So yeah, but this team isn't gonna be that good. But it's about the development of these guys: Ben Gordon, Calderon. It's about their development, and hopefully Zerbiak, Larry Johnson, and Scott Pollard can provide veteran leadership and make this team respectable. Or maybe they could be bad enough to get someone good next season, right? Maybe they can get LaMarcus Aldridge in the draft instead of the Knicks. Phoenix Suns, you got Tony Parker, Michael Finley, Rashard Lewis, Chris Bosh, Dwight Howard, Iguodare, Cedric Ceballos, Sharon Wright, Nick Collison. Luke Ridnour, he should probably be the backup, getting minutes off the bench. I think I'll bump him a little bit, his overall a little bit, so he gets minutes. But gotta love the starting five. The bench is a lot of old guys, and Nick Collison. We'll see if that ends up being a problem for now. Yeah, they have a pretty talented starting five, and this is a team that can definitely compete for championships once they all once it all comes together. It's going to be pretty vicious. But this bench is not the greatest. It's not the greatest bench. Looking at the Supersonics, they're kind of in the same spot as the Spurs. You got young Jameer Nelson, point guard. You got Gary Kittles, Bonzi Wells. You got 23-year-old Kwame Brown, 26-year-old Mehmet Okur, Roy Marble, Jason Williams, Marco Yaric, Jason Capono, BJ Armstrong. Chris Humphreys, Will Bynum, Marvin Williams. These guys, Humphreys, Williams, eventually should be in the rotation. Maybe this season, definitely next season. This team probably not a playoff team, and they're gonna be moving to OKC, Oklahoma City in a couple seasons. So yeah, we'll try to jump into Seattle games for because we don't have that many seasons where they're gonna be in Seattle left. So, but I'm curious to see Jameer Nelson. I want to see how Jameer Nelson looks with this team. But overall, yeah, this is not going to be a playoff team. And they might even get rid of Kerry Kittles and Bonzi Wills at some point to acquire more assets and stuff like that. So, but that's the Supersonics. The Trailblazers, the champion Trailblazers, they're running it back. Damon Stoudemire, Rip Hamilton, Sharif Rahim, Rasheed Wallace, Chris Anderson, Sasha Vujacic, Ed Gray, Tony Batty, Maurice Taylor, got John Wallace, Raul Lopez, Rod Grizzard, Urson Ilyasova. He's here. He's not ready to be in the rotation yet, but he is here, and I will make sure that eventually he gets in the rotation at some point in his career. But hey, this team won the freaking championship last season. The only change is Maurice Taylor is now on the team instead of Malik Allen. But if they won it last year and the team is the same, they could definitely win it this year. We'll see if that ends up happening. Golden State Warriors, Jason Kidd, J.R. Smith, Anton Jamison, and Tony McDyess. Juwan Howard, Tony Delk is here, Brian Russell, Troy Hudson, Vladimir Stepania, and Darius Miles, Troy Murphy as well. Yeah, this team made the playoffs last season. J.R. Smith was awesome, and Tony McDyess was a nice addition. They brought back Juwan Howard, who's declining a little bit, but they should still be a playoff caliber team. We'll see how they do over the course of the season. Jason Kidd re-signed with the team. He's here for the long haul. He might spend his entire career in Golden State. I mean, he won a championship here, so and he's from Oakland, so there really isn't a reason for him to want to leave unless things really go south for this organization. But yeah, Golden State should be pretty damn good next year. The Miami Heat, they made some interesting changes over the offseason. They now have Jason Terry as their starting point guard, Morris Peterson at the two, Corey Maggette, Chris Webber is their starting power forward now. They got him from free agency. Samuel Dillon Bear is now their starting center. I think he was a little bit last year too. Ronnie Rogers coming off the bench now. Derek Anderson, Elmore Spencer, Tim James, Eddie House. Not much here. Oliver Miller's he's really regressed heavily. He's uh, a reserve. But yeah, this team could be pretty damn interesting. We'll see how Chris Webber and Jason Terry mesh with Corey Maggette and then Peterson and Dylan Bear. We'll see if they can mesh as well with the rest of the starting five. They have a decent enough bench. This could be a good playoff team. I don't know just how good they could be. I don't think they'll be in the finals. We'll see. But I think they could be a very good team. The New Orleans Hornets. They received Jason Williams via trade. The Heat traded Jason Williams to the Hornets so they can get cap space to sign Chris Webber. So Jason Williams now on the Hornets with Dwayne Wade, Caron Butler, Joe Smith, Ilgaskis, and they got Al Jefferson coming off the bench, Keith Kloss, Trenton Hassel, Travis Outlaw, Andres Biedrins, Keon Dooling, and you get Charlie Villanueva as a reserve, John Barry as well. It's a talented group of guys. We'll see if that means playoffs for this team. I'm hoping Dwayne Wade finally makes the playoffs for the first time in his career. I definitely think he has the team that could get that far. We'll just have to see how it plays out. The Orlando Magic. Some small changes for this team. Stephon Marbury, Steven Jackson, Grant Hill. Nene is now their starting power forward. Got PJ Brown, he's back. Dan Gadzura, Kenny Thomas, Chris Carr. Steve Blake is now going to be their backup point officially. He's in the rotation. Michael Ruffin as well is here. And they got some guys, Donald Harvey, Jamario Moon. But this team, they won 50 games. They lost in the first round of last year's playoffs, but they're still a very talented team, and we'll see if they can overcome the embarrassment of losing to the Nets in the first round. You get the Timberwolves, Eric Snow, Desmond Mason, Ron Artest, Jermaine O'Neal, Eric Dampier, Andres Nocioni, Bruno Sundoff, Jimmy King, Howard Isley, Michael Doliak. Got Raymond Felton down here. This team could be a playoff team. I'm hoping that's the case. I thought they were going to make the playoffs last season, but they disappointed. If this team can't get it done this season, we're going to have to figure something out because uh, there really is no excuse for a team with Ron Artest, Jermaine O'Neal, and Desmond Mason to miss the playoffs. So we'll see what's up. The bench isn't the best. It's not the best bench, that's for sure. But I feel like the starting five is good enough that it shouldn't matter. The Raptors made the playoffs for the first time in their franchise last season. We'll see if they can repeat the success of last season. They got Mike Bibby, Katina Mobley, Jamal Mashburn, Carlos Boozer, Pau Gasol, Khaled Reeves coming off the bench with Boris Diaw, and then Christic, get Earl Boykins, Kyle Korver, and you got some guys down here: Channing Frye, C.J. Miles, Matt Bonner, David Wilkins. Definitely a playoff caliber squad that can get back in the playoffs if they choose to do so, if they play well enough, right? They have the talent, and yeah, I'm excited to see what the Raptors can do this season. Maybe they can be even better than they were last season. The Grizzlies pretty much running it back. Gary Payton, Vince Carter, Jalen Rose, Keith Van Horn, Theo Ratliff, Alan Henderson, William Avery, Brian Scalabrine, Mikey Moore, Victor Kiriapa, Chris Duhon, and Dante Jones. Again, these are guys. I want these guys to be in the rotation at this point. We'll see if I can make that happen. But other than that, this team is, like I said, they're running it back. They were the 2 seed last year. They haven't been able to make it to the conference finals yet in the West. Um, Obviously, this team is trying to get to the finals. We'll see if they could do that. But they definitely have a talented squad. I didn't want to mess with them too much and ruin the chemistry altogether, especially because Vince Carter is going to be a free agent after this season. So we'll see. This is kind of a big season for the Grizzlies, kind of a make or break season, because if they don't make uh, the finals or even the conference finals, Vince Carter could leave. So, and Gary Payton is on a 1 year contract, I think. I think he has a team option next year. Yeah, so he's basically here for just 1 more year. And so, yeah, this is kind of the big changes could be coming to the Grizzlies if things don't work out this season. The Charlotte Bobcats, Deron Williams, Ricky Davis, Gerald Wallace, Rafe LaFrance, Antonio Davis, Kevin Ollie, Michael Williams, Jarvis Hayes, Hamed Haddadi, Francisco Elson, we got Bobby Jackson, Andrew Bogut, Yamahimi. I definitely plan on Bogut getting some minutes, especially over Haddadi. These guys right here, there's no excuse for Bogut to be a reserve over those guys. So, but other than that, this team is definitely going to be worth watching with Deron Williams. I'm definitely excited to see what he looks like on the court. Um, but yeah, this team could be. This is a much better. This is a much better expansion team than we've seen with other teams in this sim. At least talent wise, I think they have a lot of talent to win at least 30 something games. So yeah, I don't think they're going to be as sorry as we've seen like the Raptors and the Grizzlies when they were in their second year, or even like the Magic and the Timberwolves. Obviously, a big part of that is because they were allowed to draft much higher in the last couple of drafts than the Raptors, Grizzlies, and the other expansion teams were, right? So they were able to get a lot more talent because of that draft, uh, last year's draft, and they also were able to get some guys who kind of cast-offs, really talented guys who were cast-offs. Other teams didn't want them, and so they're getting a real chance to show what they got on the Bobcats. That being said, I don't think this team will be all that great. Um, Especially their bench is very lacking. But and I don't know if there's going to be a lot of chemistry with this starting five. and Ricky Davis and Deron Williams is kind of a weird. I don't like that backcourt that much, but it made sense for Ricky Davis to go to the Bobcats, just because there's really no other place for this guy, and he should be scoring way more than this. I want to try to make sure Ricky Davis is averaging more than like closer to 20 points per game, because that's what he was doing in 2006. That's just those are the teams. Those are the teams. The rosters 2006. Thank you very much for watching. Like and subscribe, and I will catch you next time.